Hi, so today I'm going to be doing a storytelling video about my time working as an actress in Hollywood. And this particular story is from when I was about 13 years old, and I was inspired to do this video after finding an old photo album just filled with pictures of me from this time in my life. I was a very awkward 13-year-old. I hadn't fully grown into myself. I was a chubby girl. I wasn't your typical pretty girl, and the way that I dealt with that is by just focusing on my personality and my sense of humor. I was really focused on the person that I was inside, and I was focused on having fun and being true to myself. So I think that's why I was a very confident person at this time. Looking at these photos, I realized that these were the last times in my young to young adult life that I was really fully comfortable with myself. I know I've touched base on my struggle with an eating disorder throughout the years, and in these photos and during this time, it was a time that I was not self-conscious about my weight, wasn't obsessed with it, wasn't on any diets, ate what I wanted, was happy. Years after these photos were taken, it would be a totally different story. Things changed drastically once I entered high school. This was in, I believe, 7th or 8th grade in middle school. So basically this started all when I was watching TV one day and I saw a commercial asking, "Are you the funniest kid in America?" And I thought I was hilarious. I was like, yep, I'm the funniest kid in America. Let me just go make an audition tape real quick and send it in. Lo and behold, 2 or 3 months later, I got a phone call back from Nickelodeon Studios telling me that I had made it into the top 50 of this nationwide competition. And basically what happened is, like, all these kids sent in videos of themselves doing stand-up and like comedy skits, and the judges would pick a top 50. So I made it into the top 50, and I think it was like every single week on TV they would show everyone's audition tape, and I basically made it from the top 50 to top 5. They did it by a judge panel, which was made up of like Amanda Bynes and Nick Cannon. Josh Peck was on the panel too, and I actually remember them showing my comedy skit, and Josh Peck was like, wow, that girl needs her own TV show, because they all thought it was super funny. And it was just like an amazing time in my life. I was this 13-year-old kid from a small town, and now I was watching TV and watching my idols talk about me. So I made it into the top 5, and the night that I found out, I freaked out. Top 5 contestants would be flown the following week to Los Angeles to hang out with all the cast members of All That. We'd get to have our own skit, and after a week of being in Los Angeles, they would pick the new cast member of All That, because that's what this really was. This was a search for the new cast member for the show. So this was like potentially going to be my big break. Like, if I win this competition, I'm going to be the next cast member of All That, and my life will be changed forever. So at this point in time, Nickelodeon had a website, and they had a forum where people could talk about all the contestants and share their opinions and say who they liked and say who they didn't like. And I tried to stay away from those forums at first, because I knew that I would see something that might upset me or that might make me second guess myself, so I stayed away. But one day I was sitting at my computer and I was just like itching to see what people were saying about me. I just couldn't keep myself from looking. So I went on Nickelodeon.com, I went onto the forum, and I started scrolling through the forums, and I saw a bunch of topics about me. People were saying mean and nasty things like I was fat and ugly and weird, and how did I even get into this competition? I remember reading that and crying and being really upset. And at that point, I almost felt like dropping out of the competition because I didn't feel like I could handle it. My mom helped me through it. We had a pep talk. She explained to me that people were probably just jealous or they were stupid and to just keep on going. So I flew to Los Angeles, and it was amazing. I had my own dressing room. We had a green room with like snacks. We were working on set every single day. I got my own skit. I was memorizing lines with all the cast members. It was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. It was so crazy, like sitting in a green room with Jamie Lynn Spears and Britney Spears' mom. So I was one of the only girls that was a contestant. There was one other girl who was also a finalist, and she was around my age. She was very, very skinny. She was a cheerleader, and she was very, very pretty. She was funny, but she was a different kind of funny. She was more of like a cute, quirky funny, whereas I was just like a weird, outrageous Will Ferrell kind of funny. And I immediately saw her as my #1 threat. During that time, if you turned on Nickelodeon or Disney Channel, the preteen and teen shows on those channels were a really false representation of young people because they were all so perfect. We always complain that the movie stars on the big screen and in movies are so perfect and flawless, like the Megan Foxes and the Jennifer Anistons, but it also translates into children's television. From a young age, we're enforcing into people's minds that everyone is supposed to look perfect, and if you don't look perfect, then you don't belong. And here I was, just this awkward 13-year-old. I immediately sensed something was off when I would go to the dressing room and I would be trying on clothes and the ladies would be making comments about the way that I looked. At the end of the competition, I didn't win. The pretty skinny girl ended up winning, and the producer of the show actually approached me and said, "I'm sorry, I wasn't the one to make this decision. If I was the one to make the decision, I would have picked you. You are hilarious. Please don't give up." And he turned to my mother and he said, "Don't let her give up." But it was kind of just like in one ear, out the other, because all I could think was, I lost. I was a loser. So I left Los Angeles, went back to my regular life, and I started to wonder why I lost the competition, and I couldn't understand why because I really was so confident in how well that I did. So I started to think that maybe it was because of the way that I looked. I began to obsess over my weight. I started dieting. I started to starve myself. 3 months later, I got another phone call. It was from Nickelodeon. They wanted me to come back and guest star on another episode, and it was pretty cool. I got to fly back to Los Angeles and I did an episode with Brittany Snow, and this skit was called Mrs. Bloaf, the Grief Counselor. I played a counselor lady who was like psychotic, and it was really fun. I got to work with the monkey from Friends. I got to like smash a bunch of televisions, and I noticed that this time around when I was in the dressing room, the ladies that were fitting me with clothes were saying, "Wow, you lost so much weight. You look really great." And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh gee, thanks. So I must have looked really terrible before. And I started to blame myself. I blamed myself for losing the competition. I blamed it on my appearance. I blamed it on my weight, and it made me angry. After I left Los Angeles the second time, I didn't get any more callbacks to do any shows. I really tried to get myself involved in theater because I thought that the theater world would be a little bit more open-minded and wouldn't care so much about image. And that did end up being the case, and I went to a performing arts high school, which was really great. But that whole experience really messed with my way of thinking. It wasn't the reason why I had an eating disorder, but it was one of the reasons. And it all just kind of accumulated in my head to the point where I thought that in order to be of value and in order to be successful, I would have to be skinny and I would have to adhere to this picture-perfect image in Hollywood. This is something that I discuss much more in depth in my book that's coming out this week. I don't feel personally comfortable talking about it on my YouTube channel. It was something that I had to get down on paper, and by doing so, it was really therapeutic for me. But yeah, so that was my experience of being too fat for Hollywood. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this. I know that recently there's been an undergoing revolution in Hollywood, but there's still a lot of work to be done, in my opinion. So that's gonna be it for today's video. If you like this video, make sure to click the like button and to also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!